The screens across Earth showed the same thing. Every home, every office, every public square played the footage from New Busan colony. People watched in silence as 2.3 million humans died on their screens. Children, mothers, fathers, workers, soldiers who had already put down their weapons. They had surrendered. The Galactic Conventions of War said surrendered people must be protected. The Valorian hegemony did not care about conventions. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood alone in his quarters on the orbital station above Earth. His hands were pressed flat against the cold metal wall. His eyes were fixed on a small photograph. A young woman smiled back at him from the picture. Her name was Park Myung. She was 23 years old. She worked as a teacher on New Busan. She taught small children how to read. She was his daughter. She was dead now. The Admiral had not cried. He had not screamed. He had simply become very, very quiet. The kind of quiet that scared the people around him. 3 days after the massacre, the Valorian High Speaker sent a message to Earth. His face appeared on every human screen. He was tall, with grey skin and 4 eyes that blinked sideways. His voice was calm, almost bored. "Humans of Earth," the speaker said, "you are a young species. You believed in rules. You believed that war has limits. This is foolish thinking. The strong do what they wish. The weak suffer what they must. Your colony surrendered, and we accepted their surrender. Then we killed them anyway. Because we could. Because you are small, and we are great. Learn submission. It is your only future." The message ended. Across Earth, there was silence. Then the silence changed. It became something harder, something colder. Billions of humans looked at each other and understood the same thing without speaking. The rules were broken. The game had changed. Lieutenant Commander Kim Hana worked in the intelligence division beneath the Pacific Ocean. She was 31 years old, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much. Her job was to listen. She had intercepted the final transmissions from New Busan. She had heard the screaming. She had heard mothers begging for their children. She had heard the silence that came after. Now she sat in the main briefing room of Earth's High Command. Around her sat the most powerful military leaders on the planet. General John Daewon, chairman of the United Defense Council, stood at the head of the table. He was 60 years old, with white hair and a face like carved stone. He had fought in 3 wars. He had never lost. "The Galactic Council has sent us their sympathy," General Yoon said. His voice was flat. "They say the Valorian action was regrettable, but does not require intervention. They say we should seek diplomatic solutions." No one in the room moved. No one spoke. "They are afraid," General Yoon continued. "The Valorians are powerful. The Council does not want war. They want us to accept what happened and move forward." Admiral Park stood up slowly. Every eye turned to him. His face showed nothing. His voice was soft. "For 50 years, the Admiral said, we followed the rules. We signed the conventions. We treated prisoners with kindness. We avoided civilian targets. We did this because we believed it was right. We believed that civilized species do not butcher the helpless." He paused. The room was completely silent. "The Valorians have shown us the truth. There are no civilized species. There are only predators and prey. They believe our mercy is weakness." His eyes moved slowly across the room. "Let us teach them otherwise." General Yoon nodded slowly. "Admiral Park is proposing Protocol Omega. the complete abandonment of all galactic warfare conventions. We will fight without limits, without mercy, without restraint. This is not a decision to make lightly. With respect, General Lieutenant Commander Hannah said quietly, I listened to our people die. I heard a mother singing to her baby as the Valorians shot them both. There is nothing light about any of this. The vote was called. Every hand in the room rose. Protocol Omega was approved. Earth would go to war, but not the kind of war the galaxy had ever seen. Within hours, things began to change across the planet. Old factories that had been closed for decades suddenly came back to life. Their chimneys began to smoke. Machines that had been covered in dust for years started moving again. These factories did not make cars or phones or toys. They made weapons. Weapons that humanity had designed but never used. Weapons too terrible for civilized warfare. In orbit, satellites shifted position. They turned their eyes toward Valorian space. They began watching, counting, preparing deep beneath the City of Soul. In a bunker that did not officially exist, a group of scientists gathered before a massive vault door. The door had not been opened in 30 years. Written across it, in red letters, were two words, Last Resort. Dr. Baek Yoon pressed her hand against the scanner. She was 45 years old, thin and tired-looking. She had helped design what was behind this door. She had hoped it would never be needed. The vault door began to open. Cold air rushed out. Inside, row after row of containers stretched into the darkness. Each container held something different. Nanomachines that could eat a planet. Viruses that could target specific species. Bombs that could tear holes in reality itself. Dr. Baek stared into the darkness of the vault. Behind her, a young assistant spoke nervously. Doctor, are we really going to use these things? Dr. Baek did not turn round. Her voice was barely a whisper. The Valorians killed over 2 million people in 3 days. Men who had surrendered, women who begged for mercy, children who did not understand why they were dying. She finally turned to face her assistant. Her eyes were hard. Yes, we are going to use these things. And when we are done, the galaxy will understand something very important. What is that, Doctor? Dr. Baek looked back into the vault. Somewhere in the darkness, lights were beginning to flicker on. Machines were waking up. That humanity is not prey. We never were. We were just being polite. For 50 years, humanity had played a role. They pretended to be a young species. They pretended to be weak. They showed the galaxy only simple ships and basic weapons. They smiled and nodded and signed every treaty they were asked to sign. They let other species look down on them. It was all a lie in a secret meeting room deep underground. Dr. Baek Yoon stood before the Defense Council. Behind her, holographic images floated in the air. They showed things that should not exist. Weapons that broke the laws of physics. Machines that could think for themselves. Viruses that could kill every member of one species while leaving all others untouched. Project Nightfall, Dr. Baek said calmly. We began development 60 years ago when we first made contact with alien life. We studied them. We learned their technology. Then we built things they could never imagine. General Yoon stared at the floating images. Why did we never use these weapons before? Because they are horrible, Dr. Baek said simply. Because they cause suffering beyond imagination. Because we believed we were civilized. She paused. We were wrong to believe that. The galaxy is not civilized. It is a jungle, and in a jungle, the most dangerous animal survives. Admiral Park stepped forward. His eyes were fixed on one particular image. It showed a small silver ball, no bigger than a rice grain. "What is that?" he asked. "Self-replicating nanomachines," Dr. Beak said. "Release them on a planet, and they will eat everything. Metal, rock, flesh. They will consume until nothing remains but dust. Then they will consume each other." The room was silent. "Show me more," Admiral Park said. In another part of the building, Lieutenant Commander Hannah was meeting with her intelligence team. They had spent weeks studying the Valor. They knew their military strength. They knew their trade routes. They knew their politics. But Hannah was interested in something else. "Fear," she said. "Every species has something they fear more than anything else. Find me the Valorian fear." A young officer named Sergeant Lee Dongwu raised his hand. He was 26 years old, with round glasses and messy hair. He spent his days reading alien history files. "I found something," he said nervously. "An old Valorian myth. They call them the Harvesters. Thousands of years ago, before the Valorians built their empire, something came to their world. Something that hunted them, killed them, ate them. The Harvesters were tall, walked on two legs, and showed no mercy. The Valorians nearly went extinct." Hannah leaned forward. "What happened to these Harvesters?" "Nobody knows. They just disappeared one day. But the fear remained. The Valorians still tell their children stories about the Harvesters. They use it to scare them into behaving." A slow smile crossed Hannah's face. It was not a kind smile. "Then that is what we will become," she said. "We will be their nightmare come back to life." Far above Earth, in a hidden dock carved into an asteroid, Captain Chojiho walked the halls of his ship. The vessel was called the Silent Han. It was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. Its hull was painted black. Its engines made no sound. It could pass through enemy territory like a ghost. The galaxy did not know the Silent Han existed. The galaxy did not know about the 200 other ships just like it. They had been built in secret, hidden in asteroids and empty moons, waiting for a day that humanity hoped would never come. That day had come, Captain. Cho was 38 years old, with a scar across his left cheek. He had spent 15 years training for a war he thought would never happen. Now his ship was loaded with weapons that could destroy worlds. His crew was ready. They were not afraid. They were angry. "Captain," his first officer called. "Message from High Command." Cho read the message on his screen. 3 words: "Operation Reaping begins." He turned to his crew. "Take us out." Silent running. "We have work to do." Back on Earth, something unexpected happened. A Valorian diplomatic ship entered the solar system. It carried a message from the High Speaker. The Valorians demanded Earth's immediate surrender. They wanted human leaders to kneel before the hegemony. They wanted Earth to admit that it was inferior. The diplomatic ship was beautiful. It was painted gold and white, covered in symbols of Valorian power. It stopped near Mars and waited for Earth's response. Admiral Park gave the response personally. "Destroy it," he said calmly. "Make sure the Valorian fleet can see." 3 missiles launched from a hidden station on Mars. They crossed the distance in seconds. The diplomatic ship had no time to react. It exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. The Valorian fleet, watching from a distance, saw everything. Admiral Park opened a communication channel. His face appeared on every Valorian screen. "No more talking," he said. "No more rules. No more mercy. You killed our children. Now we will kill your future. This is not war. This is punishment." He ended the transmission. In the asteroid dock, Captain Cho's fleet began to move. 200 black ships slipped into hyperspace, heading toward Valorian territory. They carried weapons that could break planets. They carried soldiers who had nothing left to lose. Corporal Song Yuna was one of those soldiers. She was 24 years old. 3 weeks ago, she was a Marine stationed on New Busan when the Valorians came. She hid among the dead bodies of her friends. She lay still for 6 hours while aliens walked past her. She smelled blood and death. She heard people she loved being killed. Now she sat in the cargo hold of a transport ship, checking her weapon for the 100th time. Her eyes were empty. Her heart was cold. She had volunteered for the most dangerous missions. She did not care if she lived or died. She only cared about one thing: making them pay. The ship shook as it entered hyperspace. Around her, other soldiers sat in silence. They all had the same look in their eyes. They had all lost someone. They were all ready to become the monsters that the Valorians had made them. In her hand, Yuna held a small photograph. A family picture. Mother, father, little brother. All dead now. All killed after they surrendered. She put the photograph away and closed her eyes. The hunt was beginning. The Valorian border systems had known peace for 300 years. Their people lived without fear. Their children played in open fields under purple skies. Their ships traveled freely, never worried about attack. Why would they worry? The Valorian hegemony was the strongest power in this part of the galaxy. No one would dare challenge them. Then the humans came. It started small. A communication relay went silent. Then another. Then a supply ship disappeared. The Valorian military sent scouts to investigate. The scouts never returned. On the colony world of Vesser Prime, farmers woke up to find their crops dying. The plants that had been green and healthy the day before were now black and withered. Within hours, every field on the planet was dead. Scientists tested the soil. They found tiny machines, smaller than dust, eating everything they touched. Famine would come within months. Millions would starve. The Valorian High Command was confused. This was not how war worked. War meant to armies meeting in battle. War meant ships fighting ships. War meant soldiers facing soldiers. This was something different. This was invisible. This was everywhere. This was terror. Corporal Song Yuna crept through the darkness of a Valorian city. She was part of a ghost team, a group of 12 soldiers who moved like shadows. They wore black armor that bent light around them. They made no sound. They left no trace. Their mission was simple: find targets, kill targets, leave a message. Yuna stopped at a corner and raised her hand. Her team froze behind her. Ahead, 2 Valorian guards stood outside a government building. They were talking quietly, unaware of the death watching them from the darkness. Yuna moved. Her knife was in her hand. One guard fell, then the other. They made no sound. They simply stopped living. The team moved inside the building. More guards fell. More Valorians died. Within minutes, the building was silent. The ghost team found what they came for: a local commander who had given orders during the New Busan massacre. The commander was sleeping in his bed. He woke up to find 12 humans standing around him. His 4 eyes went wide with terror. "What are you?" he whispered. Yuna leaned close to his face. "We are what you made us." In the morning, Valorian citizens found the commander's body hanging from the city's main tower. Written on the walls around it, in Valorian blood, were 3 words. "Remember, newbie, USAN." This happened across the border systems. Every night, humans appeared from nowhere. They killed military officers. They destroyed supply warehouses. They poisoned water sources. They never attacked regular civilians, but they made sure everyone knew they could. Fear spread faster than any weapon. The Valorian High Speaker sat in his council chamber, listening to reports. His 4 eyes showed something new. Something the Valorians had not felt in centuries. Panic. "They are everywhere," a military advisor said. "We cannot find them. We cannot catch them. Our soldiers are afraid to sleep." "Then send more soldiers," the High Speaker demanded. "We have sent more soldiers. They die too. Our people in the border systems are fleeing inward. They say the humans are like ghosts, like shadows, like." The advisor stopped. "Like what?" The advisor swallowed hard. "Like the harvesters, Speaker. The old stories. They say the harvesters have returned." The High Speaker slammed his fist on the table. "The harvesters are a myth, a children's story. These are just humans. Weak, primitive humans." But even as he spoke, he felt a cold chill run down his spine. He remembered the stories his mother had told him when he was young. Stories of tall creatures that walked on 2 legs. Stories of hunters that showed no mercy. Stories of the long night, when his ancestors had cowered in caves while death walked the land outside. Far away, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his command ship. Before him, a holographic map showed Valorian space. Red dots marked every attack his forces had made. There were hundreds of them. "The nanomachines have spread to 6 agricultural worlds," Lieutenant Commander Hannah reported. "Food production in the border systems has dropped by 60%. Their supply lines are broken in 37 locations. We have killed over 200 military officers in Ghost Team operations. Casualties?" the Admiral asked. "Minimal. They cannot fight what they cannot see." Admiral Park nodded slowly. "Good, but this is just the beginning. We have hurt them. Now we need to break them." He opened a communication channel. His face appeared on every screen in Valorian space. "People of the Valorian hegemony," he said. His voice was calm, cold. "Your leaders told you that humans were weak, that we were prey, that you could kill our families and face no consequences. They lie to you." He paused, letting the words sink in. "You taught us this. You showed us that civilization was a game we were fools to play. You showed us that mercy was weakness. So we stopped being merciful. We stopped being civilized. Now we play by your rules." His eyes seemed to look directly at every Valorian watching. "Are you prepared?" The transmission ended. Across Valorian space, millions of people stared at blank screens. Then the screaming began. On a dozen worlds, ghost teams struck at the exact same moment. Power stations exploded. Communication towers fell. Military bases burned. For one terrible night, the entire border region went dark. When the lights came back on, nothing was the same. The Valorian people had learned something that their leaders never wanted them to. No, humans were not prey. Humans were predators, and they had just begun to hunt in the cargo hold of a ship heading deeper into Valorian space. Corporal Una cleaned blood from her knife. Around her, other Ghost Team soldiers sat in silence. Some were praying. Some were writing letters they might never send. Some just stared at the wall with empty eyes. Una pulled out her family photograph again. She looked at their smiling faces. Her mother, her father, her little brother. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I've become this," but they need to understand. They need to feel what we felt. They need to know what it means to lose everything. She kissed the photograph and put it away. The ship moved deeper into enemy territory. The hunt continued. The Valorian homeworld was called Vel. It was the heart of the hegemony, the jewel of their empire. Massive cities covered its surface. Orbital defense platforms circled above like metal moons. 1,000 warships protected its space. No enemy had ever reached Velka. The Valorians believed it was impossible. Captain Cho, Jiho intended to prove them wrong. The silent Han dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Velcro system. Around it, 199 other black ships appeared from nowhere. They hung in space like shadows waiting to strike. "All ships confirm arrival," Cho's first officer reported. "Enemy has not detected us." Cho nodded. "Begin approach." Silent running. No active sensors. "We move like ghosts." The fleet crept forward through the darkness. They used captured Valorian transponder codes to pass through checkpoints. They moved so slowly that Valorian sensors read them as space debris. It took 6 hours to cross the system. 6 hours of holding their breath. 6 hours of watching enemy patrols pass by without seeing them. Finally, they reached position. 200 human warships floated above Velcora, hidden in the shadow of the planet's largest moon. Below them, the Valorian homeworld turned slowly. Its cities glittered like jewels. Its people went about their lives, unaware that death had come on Earth. General Yoon stood before a massive display screen. He could see everything, the position of every ship, every defense platform, every Valorian patrol. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened a communication channel. "Valorian High Command," he said. "This is General Yoon of Earth's United Defense Council. We have 200 warships in orbit above your homeworld. Your defense systems have been compromised. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally." In the High Speaker's council chamber, chaos erupted. Advisors screamed at each other. Military officers drew weapons. The High Speaker himself sat frozen in his chair, staring at the screen showing human ships above his world. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." "Speaker," a military commander said urgently, "we must activate the orbital defense platforms. We can destroy them." The speaker nodded slowly. "Do it. Kill them all." The order went out. 100 defense platforms received the command to fire. Their massive guns turned toward the human fleet. Targeting systems locked on. Weapons charged, and then nothing happened. Lieutenant Commander Hannah smiled as she watched from her station on Earth. 6 months ago, before the war even began, she had planted a virus in the Valorian defense network. It had slept in their systems like a seed waiting for spring. Now it had bloomed. "Protocol Echo is active," she reported. "Their defense platforms are offline. Their targeting systems are blind. They cannot shoot what they cannot see." On Velcora, the High Speaker received the news. His face turned grey with shock. "How?" He demanded, "How did they do this?" No one could answer him. Admiral Park's face appeared on the screen. "You have 45 minutes remaining. Surrender now, or we will demonstrate why the galaxy should fear humanity." The High Speaker stood up slowly. Pride filled his eyes. "Foolish, stubborn pride. We do not surrender to prey," he said. "We are the Valorian hegemony. We have conquered 100 worlds. We will not bow to humans." Admiral Park's expression did not change. "So be it." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the moon of Velkara 3. Deploy the demonstration device." A single missile launched from the Silent Hon. It was small, no bigger than a human arm. It crossed the distance to the moon in seconds. It touched the surface, and the moon stopped existing, not destroyed, not broken into pieces, simply gone. One moment it was there, a grey rock hanging in space. The next moment there was nothing, not dust, not debris, nothing at all. The moon had been erased from reality. On Velkara, billions of people looked up at the sky. They saw the flash of light where the moon had been. They saw the empty space that remained, and they understood. The High Speaker fell back into his chair. His hands were shaking. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "What are you?" he whispered at the screen. "We are human," Admiral Park replied, "and we are very, very angry. You now have 30 minutes. Valorian military leaders screamed at each other. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Some simply wanted to run. While they argued, human Marines began their descent. Corporal Una was in the first landing craft. Her heart pounded in her chest. Below her, the Valorian capital city grew larger. Towers of glass and metal reached toward the sky. Streets filled with millions of people stretched in every direction. "Remember," her commander said, "we are not here to kill civilians. We are here for the leaders who ordered the massacre. We are here for justice." The landing craft touched down in the central square. Valorian security forces tried to stop them. They failed. Human soldiers moved through the streets like water flowing around stones. Their weapons were precise. Their movements were perfect. Years of training had prepared them for this moment. Una kicked open the door to the council chamber. Inside, the High Speaker sat on his throne. Around him, his advisors cowered on the floor. The pride was gone from his eyes now. Only fear remained. Una walked toward him slowly. She pulled off her helmet so he could see her face, so he could see the cold hatred in her eyes. "Do you remember New Busan?" she asked softly. "Do you remember the order you gave? Kill them all, you said. Even the children. Even the ones who surrendered." The speaker's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. "I was there," Una continued. "I hid among the bodies of my friends. I listened to my family die. I smelled their blood." She stopped directly in front of him. "Now you will answer for what you did." The speaker fell to his knees. "Please," he begged. "Please, I will give you anything. Wealth, planets, power. Just spare my life." Una stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. Admiral Park walked into the chamber. He looked down at the kneeling speaker. His face showed no emotion. No anger, no satisfaction. Nothing at all. "You asked me what we are," the Admiral said quietly. "I will tell you. We are what you made us. You killed our families and called it strength. You murdered our children and called it power. You thought we were weak because we chose to be kind. He leaned closer. We are not weak. We were never weak. We simply hoped we would never have to show you what we really are. The speaker looked up at him with terrified eyes. What are you going to do? Admiral Park turned away. That is not for me to decide. You will face trial for your crimes. You will face justice. Real justice. He paused at the door. But know this, you are the last Valorian who will ever harm a human. We will make sure of that. Outside, the Valorian fleet was surrendering. Ships that had ruled this part of space for centuries were lowering their weapons. Soldiers who had never known defeat were laying down their arms. The war was over. Humanity had won. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Valorian hegemony. The galaxy had changed. Everything had changed. The High Speaker was executed on the anniversary of the New Busan massacre. He was not alone. 437 Valorian military officers faced trial for war crimes. Most were found guilty. Most were put to death. The rest would spend their lives in prison, thinking about the children they had ordered killed. The Valorian hegemony no longer existed. Its empire was broken into pieces. Its military was disbanded. Its worlds were forced to pay reparations to Earth for generations to come. The proud Valorians, who had once called humans prey, now lived under human supervision. But victory came with a price. Dr. Baek Yunbai sat alone in her laboratory. The room was dark. The machines were silent. She had not worked in months. She could not work. Every time she tried, she saw the faces of the dead. Not just the Valorians who had died from her nanomachines. Also the civilians on agricultural worlds who had starved when the crops failed. Also the children who had lost their parents in the fighting. She had created weapons of terrible power. She had used them. And now she could not stop seeing what they had done. A knock came at the door. Admiral Park walked in slowly. He looked older than he had a year ago. His hair had turned white. His face was lined with grief and exhaustion. Dr. Baek, he said quietly, the Council would like you to continue your work. They believe we need to develop more weapons, in case another species threatens us. Dr. Baek laughed. It was not a happy sound. More weapons, she said. That is what they want. More death, more suffering, more nightmares to build. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red from crying. Do you know what I dream about, Admiral? I dream about a Valorian farmer watching his crops die. I dream about his children asking why there is no food. I dream about their mother holding them as they starve. Admiral Park said nothing. We became monsters, Dr. Baek continued. To defeat monsters, we became something worse. And now they want me to build more monsters. I cannot do it, Admiral. I will not do it. She stood up and walked toward the door. I am resigning. I have packed my things. I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to help people instead of kill them. She stopped at the doorway. I hope we can remember how to be human again. I truly do. She left. Admiral Park stood alone in the dark laboratory for a long time, on a small hill overlooking a peaceful valley. A new memorial had been built. It was made of white stone and rose high into the sky. On its walls were carved 2.3 million names. Every person who had died at New Busan, men, women, children, soldiers, civilians, teachers, farmers, babies, who never got to grow up. Corporal Song Yuna stood before the memorial. She was no longer a corporal. She had been promoted many times. She had been called a hero. She had been given medals. None of it mattered to her. She placed flowers at the base of the memorial, white flowers, her mother's favorite. She touched the names carved into the stone. Park Myung, the admiral's daughter, her own family, thousands of others. I did what I had to do, she whispered. I made them pay. But it does not bring you back. Nothing brings you back. She heard small footsteps behind her. A child approached. A Valorian child, no more than 6 years old. She had grey skin and 4 eyes that were wide with fear. She was one of many Valorian orphans that the war had created. Her parents had died in the fighting. She had nowhere to go. The child stopped a few feet away. She looked up at Yuna with trembling eyes. Yuna stared at her for a long moment. This child had done nothing wrong. This child was innocent. This child was just like the children who had died at New Busan, just like her little brother. Slowly, Yuna reached out her hand. The child hesitated. Then she took it. They stood together before the memorial, human and Valorian, holding hands in silence. Perhaps this was how healing began. Perhaps this was how the cycle of hatred ended. One small act of kindness at a time. At the United Nations building on Earth, General Yoon stood before the world. Behind him, representatives from 100 human nations watched. Above them, cameras broadcast his words to every corner of the planet. 1 year ago, he said, we faced a choice. We could accept the massacre of our people, or we could fight back. We chose to fight. We did terrible things. Things that will haunt us for generations. Things that we must never forget. He paused, looking out at the crowd. But let history remember this. We did not start this war. We only finished it. We did not kill civilians because we wanted to. We killed them because we had to make the Valorians understand that their actions had consequences. His voice grew stronger, and to any species who might think of harming humanity in the future, let this war serve as our answer. There will be no civilized battle. There will be no rules that protect you after you have broken them. There will be no mercy for those who show none. He straightened his shoulders. We are humanity. We are not prey. We never were. Harm us at your peril. The crowd erupted in cheers. But General Yoon did not smile. He knew the cost of those words. He knew what they had lost to earn them. Far above Earth, hidden in the darkness of space, humanity's fleet waited. Black ships that the galaxy still did not know about. Weapons that could break planets. Soldiers who had learned to become monsters when necessary. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking down at the blue and green world below. His home, the home he had protected. The home whose people he had avenged. In his pocket was a photograph of his daughter, Myung, 23 years old. A teacher who loved children, dead now, along with millions of others. He pulled out the photograph and looked at it for a long time. It is done, he whispered. They will never hurt us again. I made sure of that. A single tear rolled down his cheek. I am sorry it took so long. I am sorry I could not save you, but I kept my promise. I made them remember. He put the photograph away and turned back to the stars. The war was over. Humanity had won. The galaxy would never look at them the same way again. But some of the soldiers who had fought the war would never look at themselves the same way again either. They had become something terrible to protect, something precious. They had traded pieces of their souls for victory. Was it worth it? Perhaps only time would tell, but one thing was certain. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. And anyone who forgot that lesson would face the same fate as the Valorians. The stars continued to shine. The planets continued to turn. Life went on, but in the darkness between the stars, humanity's ships waited, watching, ready, just in case.